Dave Allen will fight David Price on the undercard of Dillian Whyte versus Oscar Rivas on July 20th. It's a fight which nearly happened several years ago. When Dave Allen first emerged on the British heavyweight scene, he was calling David Price out. He didn't have the following back then that he has today. And so a lot of people actually booed Dave Allen and were very critical of him when he was calling out David Price back then. Dave Allen at the press conference today said that if he'd fought Pricey back then, Pricey probably would have knocked him out. But things have changed since then. He's come on a lot as a fighter, and perhaps David Price has deteriorated, and now he feels it's perfect timing for him to fight and defeat David Price. And I tend to concur with Dave Allen's assessment. I think that right now, Pricey is more vulnerable, at least physically, than he's ever been before. And maybe even, some people might say mentally, but from what I've seen of David Price in his interviews, he actually seems to be in quite a calm place mentally, where he accepts the fact that he's vulnerable. He's not afraid of getting knocked out again, and he's going to go in there and give it everything. We saw that in the Povetkin fight. He went in there and gave it everything. He wasn't frozen by the occasion or the magnitude of who he was fighting. No, he just went in there and gave it a go, gave it his all, got knocked out, but it is what it is. But physically, it appears to be even easier than ever to get to David Price. His stamina still looks a little dodgy. I mean, even though he won his last two fights, he looked very vulnerable against Tom Little and Cash Ali, at least to me. The Tom Little fight was a premature stoppage, in my opinion, slightly premature. And prior to the stoppage, Tom Little was having some success. With Cash Ali, it was a disqualification, but prior to the disqualification, Cash Ali was actually having some success. Price was looking sluggish. Price was looking vulnerable. The likes of a Tom Little and Cash Ali, in my opinion, would have been blasted out by David Price inside 4 rounds with very little trouble back in the days. You know, when David Price knocked out people like Tom Dallas and Sam Sexton, that version of Price, I think, would have dealt with the likes of a Tom Little and Cash Ali with ease. They're area level fighters. But today, we have to say there probably is a deterioration in David Price. So I think Dave Allen is catching him at the right time. That's not to say that David Price doesn't have a chance. You can never count somebody with that level of power out in any fight. He's always got that puncher's chance. But in terms of probabilities, I think it's more probable that Dave Allen comes out on top in this showdown. Now, I've seen some people say that Dave Allen and David Price don't deserve the exposure that Matchroom give them, because no matter how many fights they lose, they keep getting recycled by Eddie Hearn and put back on Matchroom shows. At the end of the day, it's supply and demand. If nobody wanted to see David Price and Dave Allen, Eddie Hearn wouldn't be putting them on his shows all the time. But people want to see him for whatever reason. And I always go back to the fact that boxing is a form of entertainment. That's what it is. And so there is entertainment to be had at all levels in boxing. I mean, there was a time back in the 1990s when there was a fighter called Eric Esch, aka Butterbean, and he was promoted by Bob Arum. Eric Esch actually had quite a big cult following in boxing. He was a huge, obese heavyweight who was knocking out hillbillies and journeymen, kind of like Deontay Wilder's early career. Eric Esch had quite a big cult following, and he was selling a lot of tickets. He wasn't a very good fighter, but for whatever reason, people wanted to watch him. Now, I'm not saying that Dave Allen or David Price are in the level of a Butterbean. I'm not saying they're better or worse than him. The point I'm making is, if you provide entertainment, you will bring the fans in regardless of what level you were at. And for me personally, I love watching David Price and I like watching Dave Allen. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, there are certain amateur fighters who I'm going to enjoy watching, who are not Olympians. There are certain British level fighters who I might enjoy watching, or domestic level in the US who I might enjoy watching. They don't always have to be the elite for me to enjoy watching them fight. And isn't that a good thing? Isn't it good that lower level fighters, in some instances, like David Price and Dave Allen, can get, fan bases and get paid decent money? Isn't that a good thing? Do you want a situation where only the very elite fighters get paid and the lower level fighters all have to take day jobs and just moonlight as boxers part-time? Is that what you want? I actually prefer the fact that, a lot of these lower level fighters can make decent money. They're trying their best. David Price is trying his best. Dave Allen is trying his best. They're either knocking people out or getting knocked out, at least in the case of David Price. So, hey, it is what it is. I personally like the fight. And to me, it boosts, it boosts this card. And Dillian Whyte has obviously a lot of control over the show and who goes on his undercard and what have you. And he has decided to allow this fight to go on his undercard. He knows what he's doing. Eddie Hearn knows what he's doing too, because Dillian Whyte previously had Derek Chisora versus Carlos Takam on his undercard. You guys remember that? And that was a great show. The Dillian Whyte Joseph Parker show was one of the best Matchroom shows I've ever seen, and one of the best shows of any promoter that I've seen for quite some time as well. So putting David Price on your undercard in a competitive fight is always an inspired decision. It is. It's an inspired decision. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below, though. Who do you think is going to win? Will it be Dave Allen? Will it be David Price? Can David Price pull off what would be an upset? Because I think he's actually an underdog going into this fight. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.